Joining us via phone this morning is Tom Cotton. Tom is running for the 4th congressional seat out of Arkansas. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, let me first of all say that you being a vet, we appreciate your service to this country, sir.
Well, that's very kind of you. There's a lot of goodwill all around the district for veterans, and we appreciate the support that the folks back at home always gave us while we were overseas.
Well, take us through this journey. You were at Harvard, and then you end up in the military. Take us through that journey and why you're running for this seat.
That's right. It was a bit unexpected, and certainly it was a bit unexpected to my parents when I broke the news to them. I was in my last year of school up there, and the 9/11 attacks happened, and that really changed my direction in life. Obviously, I thought I'd had a path set forward, but you know what they say about making God laugh by telling him your plans. So got out of school and paid off all my loans, and I left my law practice and joined the Army. Asked to be an infantry officer and became an Army Ranger and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Jeff, I'm really running for Congress today for a lot of the same reasons that I decided to join the Army so many years ago. I think our country was attacked not for anything we had done, but for who we are. We're the home of freedom. And today I'm afraid that our freedoms are eroding because of Barack Obama's failed leadership and failed policies. You've seen it most recently in the mandate that all employers, even religious employers, provide contraception under Obamacare. And, you know, that's not an error, or that's not an oversight by Obama and his administration. That's the essence of Obamacare, to require us to buy the products of a private company and then for the government to mandate what those products are going to be. You see it, when it comes to the crushing burden of debt we face today. The exploding trillion-dollar deficits that are going to be deeply opposed to the continuation of freedom for future generations, or the threats that we face from abroad, whether it's a rising China or a nuclear Iran, that Barack Obama really doesn't seem to have the nerve or the desire to stand up to. So those are all reasons, that I want to run for Congress and all, parts of the critical fight for freedom that we face today.
If you were in Congress today with so many battles to fight, which one would you take up as the main priority for you if you were in Congress right now?
Well, under Barack Obama, there's a target-rich environment on battles to fight.
That's right.
Jeff, frankly, it would depend in part on what committee I would be assigned to, but, I think the most urgent fights that we face are first, getting our spending under control. We're, I think, reaching a tipping point where we're not going to be able to return from the kind of, dependent welfare state that you see, for example, in Greece. You've seen what's happened in Greece over the last 2 days, riots in the street of relatively modest budget cuts. So we have to reduce spending immediately, at least back to where it was during the Bush era, which wasn't exactly a lean and austere time. And we have to reform, over the long term, our health and retirement programs, because that's really what's going to drive the debt, and we want to make sure that those programs are available for seniors and those in need for future generations.
Would you be willing to fight for the common folk that are sitting here looking at this and looking at Congress and going, number one, those folks are there too long. Having said that, I'm not necessarily a proponent of term limits because of some certain issues, but they are there too long. Secondly, what ends up happening is that they want to run for re-election all the time because the benefit package is so good. What can be done about that, and what would you do about that?
I strongly support pension reform, not just for members of Congress, but for the entire federal government. Congressman Tim Griffin from Little Rock has proposed a bill that would end the very generous pensions that all federal employees have and replace it with a kind of 401k program that my soldiers in the Army had, something called the Thrift Savings Program. And that's really where the government should be going, because that's the direction the private sector has moved for a couple of generations now. That people are empowered to receive contributions into a savings program, but they're not guaranteed, cradle-grade benefits by their former federal government employer. And, if you didn't have such a, luxurious benefit package, you might not have people who stick around for 40 or 50 years, like I know John Conyers, the radical former chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who Obama just endorsed over the weekend, is going to do. So I think pension reform is a real important component of reforming Congress, as is obviously, after we repeal Obamacare, ensuring that congressmen don't have health care or health insurance plans that are any different from what their constituents have available to them.
In Congress, what would you fight to do in order to clean up our federal judiciary? You've got the Ninth Circuit out there. They're doing things that are just atrocious. And, of course, Congress has the ability to defund these different situations. Would you look into something like that? Would you proceed with impeachment proceedings against justices if they violate good behavior?
I think the decision has to be extremely lawless and illegitimate to pursue impeachment proceedings, and also impeachment proceedings are just so difficult to implement under the Constitution. It takes a 2/3 vote in the Senate.
Sure.
The Ninth Circuit in particular, what could be done? It could be divided. It's already gotten too large and unwieldy, and they have a very entrenched liberal majority there. But in general, the Congress under the Constitution does have the power to set the jurisdiction for courts. So they can remove subject matters from the jurisdiction of courts. And there's been efforts to do this in the past, and I support those, whether it's a matter of abortion or school prayer. But more generally, what Congress should be doing if they want to take power away from the courts is they should be writing simpler and clearer and better laws. The Ninth Circuit, again, to take an example, has recently said that runoff water from timber operations can be regulated under the Clean Water Act, a radical decision that no court has ever announced before. Well, if Congress would write the Clean Water Act or amend the Clean Water Act in a clearer fashion that would prevent such misinterpretation by judges, then we wouldn't have to complain about judges in the first place. So I do blame Congress almost as much as I blame a lot of the runaway judges.
When you take a look at Congress right now, and you see what they are attempting to do, because we've got some good folks in Congress right now, and they're really trying to make an attempt to do the right thing. However, they still can get snookered. Give me your views on the National Defense Authorization Act.
I think the defense budget as a whole has been reduced radically under Barack Obama. I would have supported the bill, but I would have much rather seen the allocation of federal spending radically shifted around between domestic agencies that really don't serve any core constitutional purpose, like housing and urban development or the Commerce Department and so forth, and have a military that's going to be able to fight and win our wars, and therefore, more importantly, going to be able to deter our wars from starting in the first place. Under Obama, we've already cut over $300 billion in the Department of Defense. We're going to cut another $500 billion. That means we're going to take over 100,000 troops off the front lines. Not only is that terrible news for our ability to fight and win wars, it's terrible news for those people who remain in, because, as we saw a few years ago, the 39th Infantry, the Arkansas National Guard, had deployed twice because we didn't have enough active duty troops. But, it's bad for the economy and bad for jobs as well, because you're going to have over 100,000 veterans back, looking for work, people who wanted to have, careers in the military.
Do you think that NDAA also shrinks freedom for Americans?
Are you talking specifically about the detention measures in there? I don't, Jeff. I think there are important provisions in there that allow for judicial review, and that also distinguish between enemy combatants, even if they're American citizens, like Anwar al-Awlaki was, or Jeremy Walker Lynn was in Yemen or in Afghanistan. So I know that there's some controversy surrounding this, but the best thinking I've seen on it from conservative champions of liberty, who certainly would never stand for the repeal of habeas corpus or any kind of indefinite detention, say that they think that there's important safeguards in there that will allow us to prosecute the war against American turncoats overseas without threatening any of our liberties here at home.
Now, here in the last minute and a half here, give me your best speech. Convince me to vote for you. Now, I can't because I'm a Texan, but but if I was living in Arkansas, convince me to vote for you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. It's not too late to move across the state line and register. You can do that up until April 22nd. Like I said earlier, I'm running for Congress because I think we're at a crossroads in the country, the way we were after 9/11, and we need new leaders who are willing to step forward and make some hard choices to put us back on the path of liberty and prosperity that past generations have always lived. And if we don't choose to get our budget balanced by making real spending cuts, by passing a balanced budget amendment, by reforming our tax code, by getting regulators off our backs and by our sides, we're not going to go down the path to liberty and prosperity. We're going to go down the path to statism and decline, and ultimately eclipse. That'll change what it means to be an American and to live in America. And I want to go to Washington and I want to make the right choice, even if it's the hard choice. But I want to do more than vote correctly. I want to actually be a leader. I want to be able to be someone who can, persuade my colleagues, who can make the case nationwide about conservative principles, limited government, and individual liberty. Because I don't think leaders should follow polls. I think leaders should change polls, and that's what I'm dedicated to doing in Congress, Jeff.
Tom Cotton, thank you, sir. Now, you'll be in Texarkana this evening. Where will you be, and what will you be doing?
We'll be at Texarkana. We'll be in Big Jake's on Arkansas from 5 to 7. We're having a Miller County campaign kickoff, so everyone's invited to come out. It's a casual come-and-go event. Just drop by, meet me, hear a little bit more about me and my stances on the issues, maybe take a bumper sticker or yard sign or two, and then the Miller County Republicans will start meeting, I think, at 6:30, and we'll be speaking to them as well. But again, that's 5 to 7 at Big Jake's on Arkansas Boulevard tonight, and you can also learn more at my website, cottonforcongress.com.
Excellent. Tom Cotton, thanks for joining us, and have a great trip.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate it, man. 7:45, 15 minutes away from 8 o'clock. Up next is the Sean Hannity Update. This is the Voice of Freedom on Freedom 107.